And it's supposed to be Ken.
Judge, on Harris and Marcus, it's showing that we submitted both of them. I don't know if
Okay.
we received them.
Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, we're on the record in cause number 326648. The case is style of the state of Texas versus Moses Willard Jones. Mr. Jones, is that your full name?
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, Your Honor.
Okay, that's good. Now, Mr. Jones, you're here represented by your attorney, Mr. William Wilkerson. Mr. Wilkerson, how are you doing?
I'm good on that, Judge.
That's good. Mr. Wilkerson, you have an announcement you'd like to make in Mr. Jones' case?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Jones would like to proceed to trial.
Okay, we're gonna reset his case for trial. Just hold on. And the court coordinator will give you a trial date.
Hold on just a second, Judge.
Okay.
Going to be December 6th.
Okay, Mr. Wilkerson case has been reset for trial on December the 6th. Mr. Wilkerson, you could get your reset from our court coordinator. Once you get your reset, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day. And Mr. Jones, once your attorney give you your reset, you'll be free to go as well and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
just have a seat
You too,
till you get
Your
your reset.
Thank you, Judge.
She's in the office.
Have a great day too.
All right, same to you. We have. I'm gonna call Jacoby Harris.
Jacoby Harris. Where you go? He had some. He's got. Stand over there. You need to sign up with.
You can just put it right here. Okay, we're on the record in cause number 328886. The case is style of state of Texas versus Jacoby Deshaun Harris. Mr. Harris, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Harris?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Harris, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Harris, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
You may put your hand down. Now, Mr. Harris, you're here represented by your attorney, Mr. Jack Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence, how are you doing?
Just fine, Your Honor.
That's good. Mr. Harris, I have before me an information that alleges that on or about November 27th of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of burglary of a vehicle. Mr. Harris, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Harris, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris, I have before me a document that is titled State's Exhibit Number, well, that's labeled State's Exhibit Number 1. It's titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Harris, there's a set of initials JH on a line next to a box that says check nola contendere, which means no contest. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of this same document, Mr. Harris, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
On the next document, which is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you're waiving, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
I also have before me, Mr. Harris, a document that is titled the Discovery Certification. And do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the second line that's above the line that says defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Harris, prior to signing and initialing all of these documents that I've just mentioned, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State, you like to offer State's 1?
Yes, Your Honor, and the state would also offer at this time exhibit number 2 is the probable cause affidavit.
Okay. Excuse me. Mr. Lawrence, do you have any objections to the state's offer, State's Exhibits Number 1 and 2?
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, no objections. State's Exhibits Number 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Lawrence, you've advised and counseled Mr. Harris. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
Absolutely not. Your
Mr. Harris, your attorney, Mr. Lawrence, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of no contest and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that
In
agreement?
terms of that agreement is 15 months deferred probation.
Okay,
It's a $500 fine,
okay,
40 hours community service,
okay,
and a theft class as a condition of probation.
okay. Now, Mr. Harris, the state is offering that you serve 15 months deferred adjudicated probation. During the 15-month deferred probationary period, you will be required to pay a fine of $500 plus court costs of $292. It comes to a total of fine and court costs of $792. You'll also be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month, or your analysis fee of $15 each month, and you'll be required to reimburse the Jefferson County, the court-appointed attorney's fees. Now, your total monthly installments that you'll be required to pay each month is $150. Would you be able to pay the $150 each month?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you will also be required to perform 40 hours of community service and participate in the theft class as a condition of probation. You'll also be required to adhere to the other standard terms of your probation. Mr. Harris, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Harris, if you successfully complete the deferred probationary period, this case will be dismissed. It will not appear on your record as a conviction, and you may qualify for a non-disclosure. You can talk to your attorney about applying for non-disclosure. He's quite competent in those matters. Now, Mr. Harris, there's an X next to your attorney. You're gonna stand on that X, face the clerk, and you're gonna follow her directions. And once you finish here, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. You too.
And Mr. Lawrence, I think this is your only case as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go. Well, once you sign, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day as well.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
And if you sign that black box right there, you won't be able to see it. Lawrence, would you raise your right hand? You swear that you never before been given deferred adjudication of any probation for a felony or misdemeanor in any other state? And you further swear nothing else is pending?
Okay, DeQuarius Lewis is next.
You need to make
DeQuarius Lewis.
arrangements with him today. There should be a phone number, not too far, you need to go as soon as you can, okay?
We're on the record in cause number 327-360, case of style of state of Texas versus DeQuarius Marquez Lewis. Is that your full name?
Marquise Lewis, sir.
Okay, what is your first name?
Aquarius.
Okay, DeQuarius Marquez Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how you doing, Mr. Lewis?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Lewis, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Lewis, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis, you may put your hand down. Mr. Lewis, you're here represented by your attorney, Mr. John Macy. Mr. Macy, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Your Honor. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Lewis, I have before me a document that is titled Information. In this document, it alleges that on or about May 27 of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass. Do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Lewis, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, and no contest?
No comment.
Now, you pleaded no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. It's also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Lewis, he was supposed to put his initials. He got his signature. He was supposed to put his initials here. He has a signature. You could erase that in that way. You can put his initials. Initials. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, Mr. Lewis, on page 2 of State's Exhibit Number 1, there are a set of initials, DL, on a line next to a box that says check no contingency, which means no contest. Are these your initials?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on page 3 of this same document, Mr. Lewis, above the line that's titled Defendant, is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, Mr. Lewis, which is titled the Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
Is this your signature above the line that says titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you're waiving your right to appeal, which means you're giving up your right to appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Now, I also have before me a document that is titled the Discovery Certification. Mr. Lewis, do you recognize this document? You need to show this to him? Huh?
Yeah, that is. sir.
You recognize, is that your signature on the line that says defendant? Now, Mr. Lewis, prior to signing and initialing these documents, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct
Yes, sir.
to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. You like to offer State's Exhibit number 2, the probable cause affidavit as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, State's Exhibits 1 and 2 being offered?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, no objections, States 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Macy, you've advised and counseled Mr. Lewis, is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stay at trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lewis, your attorney, Mr. Macy, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of no contest and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
It's for 1 year deferred probation,
Okay,
a $500 fine,
okay.
and 40 hours community service.
Mr. Lewis, the state is offering that you serve 1 year deferred adjudicated probation. During the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $500 plus court costs of $347, which comes to a total of $847. You will also be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month and a urinalysis fee of $15 each month. And you will be required to reimburse Jefferson County the court-appointed attorney's fee. Now, the total monthly installments that you will be required to pay for this offense is $175 each month. Mr. Lewis, would you be able to pay the $175 each month?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Lewis, you will also be required to perform 40 hours of community service, and you will also be required to adhere to the other standard terms and conditions of this probation. Mr. Lewis, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Now, Mr. Lewis, if you successfully complete your deferred probationary period, this case will be dismissed. It will not appear on your record as a conviction, and you may qualify for non-disclosure. You can talk to your attorney about applying for non-disclosure. He's quite competent in those matters. Mr. Lewis, there's an X next to your attorney. You're gonna stand on the X, face the clerk, follow her directions, and once you finish following the directions of your clerk, you'll be excused and you have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And Mr. Macy, I think you had another one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Donald Smith
Yes, Your Honor.
is, oh, he's in jail.
He's in.
And I see the case is actually, his felony case is set today.
Yes, Your Honor. My understanding, well, Mr. Groves represents him in the felony case. And I was informed by Mr. Groves that he intended to request a jury trial on those cases, but, so.
Okay, so-
We'd ask the
Yeah.
case to get reset.
Reset with the same date of the felony?
I have no date for the felony as of yet.
Okay, well, we know that. Now, what were you saying?
Either the same date or
Yeah, we don't have a
week
date.
later.
Yeah, we don't have a date right now. Let's see, Mr. Groves. Is
Yes,
there,
sir. We haven't gone to Judge Stevens' court. It's not till 11:30.
oh, okay,
So I don't have a date yet, but I expect he will be reset for some future day.
okay. Maybe you can check, get back with us, and then we'll check as well. Okay, but for the meantime, it'll be reset with his felony. Okay,
Thank you, Your Honor.
okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to still talk to him or not. Did you want to?
Have any excused, Your Honor?
Yes, you may be excused and you have a blessed day. Gary Merriweather?
Yes, sir.
We're on the record in cause number 328864. The case is style of State of Texas versus Gary Dean Merriweather. Is that your full name? You have to speak up, okay. Because she's taking a record of everything that's being said, so you have to speak up so she can hear you. All right, Mr. Merriweather, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Merriweather, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Merriweather? You doing all right? Now, Mr. Merriweather, you're here with your attorney, Mr. David Grove. Mr. Grove, how are you doing?
Good, Judge.
That's good. Mr. Merriweather, the information in this case alleges that on or about December 21st of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated. Mr. Merriweather, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to this charge, Mr. Merriweather, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Merriweather, I have before me a document that is titled the misdemeanor plea admonishments. Mr. Merriweather, do you, and it's also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
On page 2 of the same document, Mr. Merriweather, there are a set of initials, GDM, on a line that is next to a box that's checked nolo contendere, which means no contest.
Yes,
Did you place your initials on this document?
Your Honor.
On page 3 of this same document, Mr. Merriweather,
They're gonna give me-
there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
And on the next document, which is the trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, Mr. Merriweather, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
There's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The second box states that you're waiving, which means you're giving up your right to appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
I have another document here. This document is titled the discovery certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Merriweather, prior to signing and initialing all of these documents that we just spoke of, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1, and State, you like to also offer State's Exhibit Number 2, the probable cause affidavit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objections. State's Exhibits Number 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Grove, you have advised and counseled Mr. Merriweather. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
None that I'm aware of.
Mr. Merriweather, your attorney, Mr. Grove, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Merriweather, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of no contest and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is that agreement?
It's for 90 days, probated over 1 year, an $800 fine, 60 hours community service, drug and alcohol assessment, DWI education class, and AA meetings 1 time a week.
How many hours of community service you said?
60 hours.
60, okay. Oops. Okay. Mr. Merriweather, the state is offering that you serve 90 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you'll be placed on probation for 1 year. During the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $800 plus court costs of $300 and let me see, that's $422. Yeah, $422. Now that comes to a total of $1,222 of total fine and court costs. You'll also be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month and a urinalysis fee of $15 each month. You'll also be required to reimburse the Jefferson County, the court-appointed attorney's fees of $250. You'll also be required to pay Jefferson County DWI education class and initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. And you'll be required to pay $50 should a further evaluation be needed. Now, the total amount that you would have to pay each month comes to $210. Mr. Merriweather, would you be able to pay the $210 each month?
On I'm on Social Security disability on that community service.
Okay, hold on a minute. All right. Give me his affidavit agency on. $43,091, I think. 43. Yep, 43,091. Okay. Okay, did it? Okay. Okay. Mr. Grove,
Yes.
you hand that to Mr. Merriweather.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Merriweather, what you have in your hand is an affidavit of indigency that was filled out by you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is everything true and correct on that document?
Yes, sir.
And it's still current today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 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 Now, Mr. This is going to be pursuant to, let me see the court. Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Merriweather, no, well, first of all, Mr. Grove,
Yes.
you stated that your client, Mr. Merriweather, he is receiving Social Security, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what he has told me. He is receiving Social Security disability.
Okay, now, does he have any significant physical or mental impairments or disabilities that you know of?
No, Your Honor, except what would qualify him to get the disability as determined by Social Security. I'm not aware of any other disabilities that he has.
Okay, okay, other than the disability that is, that made him eligible for the Social Security benefits?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And my understanding is he has no other disabilities besides that. And he's compensated for that by Social Security.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the court pursuant to Article 43.091 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, the court will make a finding that the defendant is indigent. It does not have sufficient resources or income to pay all or part of the fine. And the court will also find that each alternative method of discharging of the fine under 42.15 would impose an undue hardship on the defendant. And that undue hardship was made under Section 8.2 is obviously it's in the court's discretion, but we're going to find that he has a significant physical disability that would impose an undue hardship on him to pay the fine. So at this time, the court is going to, what's the fine? The fine is going to be, let me do this here. Okay, part of the fine is going to be waived. Court calls, let me do this here. That's 12/22, 12/22, 12/22.
If you ain't change, I'm sorry, baby.
Okay. Let me do this here.
Are you waiting for me?
I'm on
No.
Zoom, I'm doing something.
Oh, no, I thought you were waiting for me. I had to step away, I'm sorry. Just. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, part of the fine, let's see, in Meriwether. Let's do this here. We're gonna waive 600 of that. And if I do 6 off of that, let's see. Let me actually say, does his disability, will that interfere with his ability to do any community service?
Judge, I think that's what his main concern is, that he doesn't think he can do the physical.
Because I can't hardly read and stuff with all my heart problems.
Okay, okay.
So I think more so than fine, he wants to see if he can maybe get a waiver of the
Okay.
community
Well,
service.
what we're gonna do, the probation officer will make that determination. But at this time, the court is going to waive it's 400. What was that a month? That's 800 plus that is 12. Okay, this is what the court is going to do. The court is going to reduce his probation fee to $25 each month instead of the $60. And then his fine and court, and then the court is going to reduce the fine and court costs payment of all or part of the fine. The fine is gonna be reduced from $800 to $200 per month, okay? Okay, and that's gonna be ruling of the court. So the court is gonna reduce his fine from 800 to 200, and his probation fee is gonna be reduced from 60 to 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's gonna be pursuant to Article 43.091, and that's based on the findings that the court has made under Article 43.091, Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Okay, so now there's gonna be some adjustments that's gonna be made on your paperwork. And so I'll just go ahead on, and the court clerk would have to draft it up. Probably gonna take, y'all probably gonna have to take a seat and then come back up and sign it. But let me repeat. You are, the state is offering that you serve 90 days in Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve the time in Jefferson County Jail because you'll be placed on probation for 1 year. During the 1 year probationary period, the state had offered that you would pay $800 fine plus court costs. The court, pursuant to Article 43.091, the Code of Criminal Procedure, will be reducing your fine from $800 to $200. It's going to be waiving the $600 is basically what's going to happen.
Thank you.
And then the court, the probation fee of $60 is going to be reduced to $25. And then you'll still be required to pay your $15 urinalysis fee each month, and reimburse the county for the court appointed attorney fees of $250. And you'll be required to pay the DWI education class and initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. Should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay an additional $50. She will wrap that up, and then the paperwork will be adjusted to reflect what the court just said. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Now, also, you will be required to perform 60 hours of community service, and the probation department, once you talk to them, they will determine whether or not you'll be able to do the community service, is what I'm saying, 60 hours of community service. Now, you'll also be required to attend a DWI education class and have an alcohol assessment, and attend AA meetings once a week. Now, you'll also be required to adhere to the other standard terms and conditions of your probation. Mr. Merriweather, do you understand the state's offer and the court's adjustments?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that it's fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Merriweather, just have a seat. When the clerk is ready for you, she's going to call you back up to do the paperwork. Once you complete your paperwork, you'll be free to go. You have a blessed day. And Mr. Grove, once you sign the paperwork as well, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.